Day is here. It's nearly over, and the transfer window for this season, for the 2022-2023 season, is about to come to a close. And we're going to know what each team and all the squads that will be set for the remainder of the season when we get into the business end. So, people, it's a calling show. The show is yours. So make sure you stay locked in as we're about to start right now. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to Tariq Talks. And this is our deadline day special. It's something that we have done on a few occasions since we started the channel in 2021. Since we started the channel in August 2021, where we do have a call-in show for the deadline day. It's like a tradition, and I'm sure plenty of other channels are doing it as well. But guys, this is where we're going to be talking about not just Arsenal-related transfers. We'll speak about that. We'll speak about Jorginho, Enzo Fernandez, Sabitzer, and so much more, even including Pedro Porro and all the other Premier League clubs. And anyone who wants to talk about any club in particular, whether it's one that you support or whether it is one that you just find interesting, or you have a hot take in particular. But guys, make sure you stay locked in, and I'm going to get the link sent out to you in a moment. I'm just getting it sorted. So apologies for being late once again. I had some technical issues, the lighting and stuff. It wasn't quite working. I had to go sort that out. And you know, it's a tradition always to be late on this channel as well. But I hope you're keeping good, people. Hope you're keeping well. What a busy transfer window it has been. And I think this transfer window has been the craziest of them all. I feel like we say this, and it's a common theme that we keep saying across every transfer window, as the money gets crazier and the reporting gets even stronger, and there's a lot more journalists out there who are clued up, and social media, and just so much that gets more crazy. But this year has been a special year, and Chelsea are the big reason for that. They are I would say they're the biggest factor. They've been the biggest headliners of this January transfer window, most definitely so far. I would love for all of us to talk about Chelsea and to talk about their business, how we think it's going to do and how it will fare for them. So, yeah, guys, the floor is yours. I've just dropped it into the chat, the link for you, and I'm also getting it into the description as well, and I'll also pin the comment for you guys. And we'll have to get into it. So call in here. This is also in the chat, in the description, guys. The link is there. So the floor is yours. And we've got our first caller, and it's my brother, and it's a big brother of the channel. And one of my, you know what, we did a watch along for Man United, Arsenal. When we lost that game, we should have done one for the last game, of course. But I've got my brother Roland, who is a family of the channel. How are you doing, my bro?
I'm good, man. How are you, man?
I'm all good. It's been
long time.
Crazy. It has been a long time. It has been a long time since we really talked about some ball, and you know what? It's a lot has happened since, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the January transfer window as a whole, and as a Manchester United fan with Sabitzer coming in.
Boy, first and foremost, innit, everybody who's in here right now, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new here as well. Make sure you also tune in to all the shows that Ed and Tariq got cooking up every week in terms of Premier League preview, the watch-alongs for Arsenal and all of that stuff as well. So make sure you do that, people. But like in terms of the January transfer window, it's probably one of the craziest ones I've witnessed in like years. I can't lie to you, like, because January's generally been quiet, like as I've watched football over the years, but then it's just boomed over the last few years, let's say 5 years, where now clubs are just, they don't care what kind of money they spend. It's really about necessity, and they just go out there and just buy whichever player that they feel fits into their squad, especially if they've got certain goals coming up towards the end of the season, if it means staying up in terms of relegation, or if they're pushing for Europe, or if they're pushing for the league, or for the top 4 Champions League, whatever. So I mean this year, like, just some of the stuff that we've already seen. Obviously, we've seen the Arsenal stuff with Mudryk, yeah, and that not going through, and then Caicedo news literally popping off on Friday, like literally wake up in the morning and that's like on the table. Like this Enzo Fernandez thing is blowing my mind, but I just kind of knew that at some point somebody was gonna bite, like for that deal, just because obviously we know how the Benfica model works. Like they put they grab these players from South America or even like from lower teams in Portugal and whatnot, or even maybe across the world, because there's been some other players that have come from other leagues into Portugal, and they go into their system, and then they just basically give them an opportunity and a chance to play. Then they make them sign a new contract with a huge release clause on it, and someone usually bites. We saw that like with Joao Felix and what happened with him, like and then obviously Nunez as well, literally just going to Liverpool in the summer. So it was going to happen at some point with Fernandez. And I was like, somebody's going to buy it. And Chelsea look like they're about to spend that money. And it's going to be a British record. It's not going to be like, it's going to be what, just over 100 mil. So I mean, that's going to be interesting as well to see what happens. I mean, and then just looking at what Chelsea have done this month is actually so mad. Like some of the players they brought in, yeah, I'm just saying to myself, like they brought in, who they bring in? Badashil, Gusto, Mudryk. They're about to get Fernandez.
Joao Felix on loan, with a £15 million loan deal.
Yeah, which is crazy to me as well.
Fofana. Andre Santos. And you know what? I heard something mad as well. Julian Laurence tweeted this out. Because with the Champions League and Europa League squads, you can only add 3 players who have been signed from January. So that means out of their 7 signings, 4 of them are going to miss out. So they can only add 3 players.
That's kind of crazy. So that's a bit of a headache for Graham Potter and all of that. I mean, for them, it's really setting themselves up for next season, because I feel like what's going to happen is we might see some sort of backtracking from UEFA, and there might be a punishment somewhere, because I'm sure they've broken a rule somewhere. They must have, because like this is a bit too much. Like, so they're just trying to get all their players in just in case there's some sort of a ban or some embargo or something, which could be actually pretty funny. But we'll see what happens with that. I'm surprised Liverpool haven't moved for any midfielder at all. I'm surprised, because there's been midfielders out there. I'm just very surprised that they've not gone for any midfield. I mean, Gakpo came in early in the window, but that was it was a bit of a shock, but I feel like they got smoked out. I feel like there was a lot of names that obviously United were being linked with him heavily. Yeah. And then I think it was just to try and smoke out a bidder, essentially, and Liverpool bit. I think they needed a forward, but, because obviously they have injuries to Jota. Luis Diaz is now injured as well, so they needed some cover there. And they've gone for Gakpo. I think it's interesting that people have started slandering him, though. It's just like, bro, he's only just come to the league. Yeah. We know the jump from the Dutch league to the Premier League is pretty huge, and so you need time to settle, especially if you're a player that was working in one system and has to now move completely into another system. And at the same time, Liverpool are kind of transitioning as well, which is a bit interesting to watch as well. But then there's been midfielders out there for them to go and buy or loan or whatever. Like, so obviously we saw the Amrabat situation. He's at Fiorentina, performed pretty well at the World Cup. I think a lot of people know about him anyway. Just generally, they didn't even go for him. I'm trying to think of it. Unani, who moved from Angers to Marseille in this window, he performed really well for Morocco at the World Cup. A high energy midfielder that you could probably bring into the Premier League, and I think he'll be happy to. I mean, he would slot into that midfield pretty well. And he's pretty young. They didn't bother to go for him, and so he went to Marseille. I'm just trying to think. There's any other midfielders that they could have brought in.
I even think Sabitzer would have definitely been an addition in terms of what he's, coming from the Bundesliga and higher energy midfielder who's very good in the box-to-box scenarios is definitely what they need at this moment in time. And yeah, Sofian Amrabat, I think that's probably the big one that you mentioned right there. Someone who's a deep line destroyer who can give you the replacements of Fabinho, because with Liverpool as well, like I don't think their number 6 actually. It's not as high demand as what Manchester City's is, and it's not as in high demand even on Arsenal at the moment, where you kind of need your number 6 to be a very good ball player who's very good at progressive passing and getting it through the lines quickly, because they've got so much responsibility. But really, Fabinho, he's not excellent at that. What he was good at was destroying and regains in terms of in the transition, getting the ball back, and softening Amrabat will definitely give you that. So I think that's a good point you've raised there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about obviously United, like we knew what the situation was. Like Glazers have indicated they want to sell by end of Q1. I don't know how that's gonna happen. They got 2 months for it to happen. I don't know what's gonna happen there. So obviously I've been talking about we needed a forward. Or at least we needed 2 forwards, to be honest with you, because we're just so light in that department. You can't trust Martial's fitness, even though he's coming back. You know, obviously the Sancho situation and all of that. He's coming back into the squad and whatnot. Rashford has been on fire, but then obviously if one injury happens to Rashford or someone, then we could be stuck again. Do you know what I mean? So Weghorst comes in. I'm okay with it. It's not the flashiest name, but it's a deal that basically made sense for Ten Hag. Like, we want to kind of implement this kind of high pressing from the front. He's one of the best at it from that in terms of the attacking third in the world. He's shown that over the last 2-3 years. So I'm happy with that. And then obviously Sabitzer coming in now. Like, I mean, it's a panic, but it's a quality panic. I can't lie to you. It is a quality panic because it's a player within the profile that he needs. You could say he's slightly better than Christian Eriksen in terms of, because Christian Eriksen doesn't really offer much in terms of a defensive capacity where he does. So, you know, but in terms of quality, you know, you could say they're roughly the same in it. Like, and at the start of the season, I was very kind of skeptical. I think we needed 3 midfielders instead of just the 2, because Eriksen, obviously, we all know what happened to him in the Euros and all of that. I was like, okay, he's come back and played half a season at Brentford. How equipped is he going to be able to play the 60 games that United would need from him, or roughly 60 games that we'll need from him? And I was like, I don't want to become too over-reliant on him. If he was a squad player and we had somebody else in that position next to Casemiro now, that would be a quality squad option to have. But we've not been able to have that because the club have, you know, failed in signing whatever player they needed to sign in that midfield. So he's had to play. But yeah, I mean, in terms of that, I'm just trying to think about what other moves across the league, because there's other moves that have been interesting down the league. Obviously, the Anthony Gordon situation to Newcastle. That made me laugh because I saw the picture of him in the petrol station filling up his car, and he's all the way up in Newcastle. I'm like, yo, what are you doing here? Like, you got to show some respect, man. Come on. Like,
to the club that raised you. You've been there since you're 11, gave you opportunity, and that, you know, if he's from the local area as well, he might be an Everton fan, or he's got family and people that live around there. To behave like that, that's ridiculous. If that happened from an Arsenal player, if that happened from, let alone Saka, if that was an Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I'd be going crazy. And that's, so it's terrible. It's awful behavior. And and I know Everton, they're in a pretty sticky situation themselves, but there's a little bit of loyalty that you expect in terms of respect. You could have wanted to leave, but there's ways to go about it, isn't there, bro?
But it's even a funny move as well, because it's like he's gone there 45 million. I'm like, the trajectory of this club, in about 2 years, you're gonna be a squad player at best, most probably, like maybe 2-3 years, depending on the direction in which they want to go. I don't know if he's got the talent or the mental fortitude to be able to withstand elite level competition, because this team is probably going to be in the Champions League next season. I would say. I don't know what. I mean, because they've only lost 1 game this season, I think it is, isn't it? Like, in the league, which is kind of, they've drawn a lot, but they've only lost 1 game, I think. So it's gonna take a big collapse from their perspective for them to not end up in the top 4, right? But yeah, like, I just can't see, because once you get into the Champions League, then you can attract a different level of player all of a sudden now. And then obviously there's a bit of history behind Newcastle, and they've got a big fan base, like in terms of their local fan base and whatnot. So players are going to be attracted to going there now. And I'm thinking to myself, you're going there at this stage in your career because you're maybe trying to avoid the situation where Everton go down and then you're in the Championship, but maybe that might be good for you. You're young. Like, you could go there, you could stay at Everton and perform, and then next thing you know, you'll be back in the Prem anyway. Like, if it's not with Everton, it could be with another team, depending on how you perform. But you've gone and jumped the ship because you know your head's been turned by the interest from Chelsea in the summer and the bid that they made that was rejected. Your head's been turned and you've not been focused. Like as a young player, regardless of what's going on around you, that's the agent's kind of dealing. You deal with the football on the pitch. Make sure that people still know that you got the ability that you think you have in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a bit of a surprise for me because it's just like in about 2 years, you're not gonna be like the guy at Newcastle, like because they have the ability to go out there and buy somebody else who could be 10 times better than you. Like, just it's a bit weird.
Yeah. He has been highly touted though, Anthony Gordon. You know, Chelsea were interested in the summer. They were willing to pay up to like 50 million, but Everton rejected that move. And it's kind of hard really because when I've seen him play, I see the pace, I see his directness, and that's how he really made his name at Everton. He's someone that he was shown a lot of bravery for a winger and not really that much in end product. I know he's still quite young and inexperienced to a certain extent, but at Newcastle certainly see a way that they can mold him. And Eddie Howe, he's under good arm, he's in good arms there, basically, in terms of looking after him and developing that talent. And he doesn't come straight into the side. And I think that's good. I mean, even Bruno Guimaraes, when he came in, he wasn't a straight automatic starter. So he will really be able to get his feet under the table. And what he can give them now is added into that attacking depth, which is Newcastle's problem. What you'd say this season is scoring goals. Of course, the defense, the best defense in the league. That's not the issue, but it's having that extra outlet when the games are going tough and it's not quite going your way. If you can bring on someone like an Anthony Gordon and he can give you that energy, and even from a defensive perspective, even if you're on the counter, even if you're becoming a counter-attacking side because you're trying to sit back and conserve a lead, he's got that outlet for you there, and he'll be able to do his defensive tracking back. So I think 45 million, I think as we've learned from this market rolling, that's nothing. That's the new 20 million, especially for an English player. And I just wanted to ask you as well, just before we get into some comments and what people are saying, is are you a little bit underwhelmed with Newcastle's approach in January, given the finances that we know they have, or do you look at it in a sense, I respect them because they've been quite measured in their approach?
Yes, I respect it more because they're a bit more measured, because like you have to kind of, they've come into some new money. You have to kind of follow the model that City have kind of done, right? Where, to be honest with you, it's kind of gone a bit further than maybe they expected in that first kind of year, because you could find yourself in the Champions League where City found themselves in the Europa League first, and then if you remember, I remember it back then when we seen Yaya Toure and David Silva playing in the Europa League, and then they jumped up to the Champions League. Then they were top four, trying to contend, and then they eventually breached and then got the league, right? Like, but yeah, you don't need to rush in January. Like, I mean, if you're having to make signings in January, it's only one or two you're gonna make, and you'd expect that those signings that you make are kind of ones that's gonna take you to the next level. Maybe Newcastle have looked at it and said, you know what, our squad's pretty settled. We don't need too much. It may need cover in certain areas, like you mentioned. Like, Gordon's not gonna come in and start straight away. He'll probably fly under the radar for a bit for the rest of the season, and then we'll start to see him emerge next season. Yeah. So they've made an opportunity, and they've paid the money to Everton, and Everton have sold, so it makes sense for Everton and for themselves. So yeah, they measured approach, man. Like, because if they rush it now, then like you could end up with like a squad full of like overpaid players that you may need to move on in like a year or two because they just haven't worked out. And so you just, and I need to know who's doing their recruitment behind the scenes, in it, because
it's Dan Ashworth, so the former Brighton head of scout and recruitment.
Yeah, see, look, that's another interesting one, because Brighton's thing is a bit mad, So like, because they seem to be thriving without him, to be honest with you, yeah, which is kind of mad. But yeah, like, so if he's in there, I think he's just kind of he has to look at it and assess it properly, isn't it? Like, if you find yourself over and above targets that you would have set this season, why would you now go in there and start splashing the cash? Just wait till the summer and see what other opportunities arise, and then try and go again, basically. But yeah.
I totally agree with you in that sense. And if they do, and it's looking definitely likely that they will, when the Champions League football comes around, that's when you can attract the right talent for the right reasons as well, because they really see Newcastle as a project competitively, and not just for the financial aspect, that's why I give them a lot of credit for what they've done in terms of their recruitment, because I think they've really understood the league, and what the league requires is physicality. Like as I was mentioning yesterday in the Arsenal show, teams like Stoke and West Brom under Tony Pulis have gone far in the Premier League, and there's a reason, because this league is very demanding physically, and if you can match up to that, if you look at their team, Newcastle have a basketball team on the go. I think they're definitely the tallest team in the league. When they rocked up to the Emirates and they played a flat midfield five of literally 6 foot plus midfielders, you could see it. And then you got Dan Burning at left back, he's at 6'7". You got Botman and Shaw at 6'3" plus. And then Trippier is the only one who's below 6 foot in their back five. And then you got Nick Pope in goal. So yeah, man, and Eddie Howe's got them playing football too. So I think they are really well set for the future with that spine they've got there. But just into this, as Peony been saying here, respect to Chelsea, they're going to be a real good force going forward. We spoke, you touched on Chelsea and their craziness. In the long term, if you was to predict now with their transfers, and if Enzo Fernandez does come in, do you see it being a success or a failure just because there's no real approach?
The thing about it is, we say there's no real approach, but they've actually brought in some good people behind the scenes. Like, what's my man's name?
Win Stanley.
Yeah, Win Stanley, and there's another guy as well,
Christian Viville or Christopher Viville or something like that.
Something like that. I need to find the name, but
the Austrian.
Yeah,
one.
He's Austrian. Yeah. But yeah, basically, we're on the outside in, kind of like looking at it, we're saying, oh, they're just spending crazy money. There's a plan behind everything that they're doing, like, and it's I can see it being a problem next season, like, for real. The only thing that they need is that striker. They need that striker, and they weren't able to. Obviously, you're not going to grab that guy in January, just no way. Like, no team's getting rid of their like main striker for during the January window. I just can't see it. But they need a striker for next season. It's going to be interesting. Or can Potter find a way of implementing a system in which they can operate with a false nine, and the wide men are the ones providing a lot of goals. I don't know. We'll see what Potter has to do with that. But yeah, it's kind of mad. I think in a year's time we're gonna see it, and it's gonna be scary. I can't lie to you.
I agree with you. I agree. I'm very much to the approach. Unfortunately, I think they're going to be totally fine, and I think what they're doing in this January window, they're signing young players, right, and they're signing youth. They're signing the best talent though across Europe. That's why they've spent so much. But if you're signing players of the age around 21 to 23 in that bracket, it's much better to spend on them now, because you're going to get obviously longer value, and if they do bang, you can even potentially make more on that with inflation and how the market is going and whatnot. And even with the contracts, because this is where I was kind of saying to Arsenal fans, I kind of made sense of it. If we did go and splash the cash on Caicedo, 70 plus million, yes, if you're talking about pure player value, he's not worth that, and he's probably less than half of that at this moment in time. But because of the contracts that are involved and the wages and everything combined, it's actually less than if you spent 50 million on a 200 grand a week player. Do you understand what I'm saying? So as it works out as the financial package, so it makes sense. And clubs, when they make transfers, they don't pay all cash up front anyway. It's always installments, and banks taking out interest, so they have to pay it back in installments anyway. And with the money in the Premier League, we've seen with this transfer window, it only keeps on rising and rising. And if Amazon get in there, or Netflix, so they create their own streaming platform, it's only going to take it to another level. It is the Super League at this moment. So I think Chelsea are kind of like forecasting ahead. As long as another pandemic doesn't come and it really wipes everything out, then I think they'll be just fine, unfortunately. Is there anything that you disagree with that?
No, I mean, like, Yeah, because obviously you kind of hit the nail on the head. People think that, you know, when there's 120 million euros quoted, that's what they're paying. It's not necessarily that. Like, is, you know, is it split over the course of a player's contract basically, and you just pay that in installments. Or in the case of Enzo Fernandez, because it's a release clause, you do have to pay that up front, but they go through another company. So there's this company called 23 Capital.
Yeah.
Which, basically they pay the money to the club up front, and then the buying club pays that company in installments with a bit of interest on top, so that they can make money as well. So like it is gonna get crazy. I don't know where it stops, to be honest with you, because like we just had a little brief exchange about this Caicedo thing, yeah, and I'm gonna ask you a question on Arsenal's stuff as well, because we need to hear your thoughts on it, right? So like when I'm hearing, because obviously I know the Caicedo situation because he was linked with United in January of 21. 5 million from I forgot. Is it Liga? Where did he come from? I forgot where.
The Ecuadorian league, was it? Or was it Venezuelan?
I think Ecuadorian league. I forgot the team though. And it was quoted at 5 million, yeah. And then like United said, yeah, we could do that and everything. You know, everything was agreed on a player side. We need to you know, agree the fee with the club, and it's good. We decided not to take the option. He ends up at Brighton. I was like, okay, that's a good signing. It's a good move for him because he can fly under the radar. Basuma is there and then does what he needs to do. Basuma leaves and goes to Tottenham in the summer. He now takes his place in the team. So, okay. And I think at that point, as soon as he makes that jump into the first team, there's already a price tag on his head. So if he was to leave, it's going to be anywhere from 40 upwards. Yeah. When I'm hearing 60 or 70 million, and I'm saying to myself, only a year ago, he wasn't even starting in the Premier League. So how has it gone to that? How has it gotten to that point? And I understand there's, you know, you're paying for potential, and, you know, there's a contract involved, and there's, you know, there's money on the table and all of that. But it's just like, I don't know where it stops, because I never heard of Mudryk before Arsenal fans were talking about. I never heard of him personally. Honestly, I've never heard of him. And I'm hearing he's going for 90 million. I was like, yeah, it's a bit mad. Like, and I think it all kind of started from, I mean, I know where it truly started, where all of this started going mad. It was when Paul Pogba and Neymar, those two transfers really just kind of destroyed everything, basically. Because if Neymar's going to PSG for 200 million and Paul Pogba went to United for 89, it just kind of tilted the whole market in another place. And since then, we've just seen just crazy amounts of money spent on different kind of players. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I agree that, you know, Chelsea are going to be fine. But the money in the game is a bit mad. I don't know where it's going. Like they don't need a Super League anymore. You're right, man. The Premier League is a Super League.
it is true, man. And as you say, like what 80-70 million could get you 10 years ago. And it's not even due to inflation, right? Because it's more to do with the money coming into the Premier League and what Premier League clubs have spent. Yes, there has been inflation, but not by that drastic amount. Like, because 70-80 million 10 years ago was getting you a world-class player, a top 5 in their position.
Yeah.
What clubs are spending now? Arsenal, what we spent in terms of 72 for Pepe, you know, Maguire to Man United, that was a mistake, but Jack Grealish to Man City, and Man City were happy to do that, and that was a release clause as well. Anthony, and then do you see what I'm saying? So the 80 million is now changed in the market, because it seems like those top players now are much more, they're the ones who are running down their contract, and they're the ones who are going on a free, because that means that they get the money themselves, and that's why they're getting the lucrative and ridiculous contracts. So it's kind of like the market has changed in that way, because even let's say 10 years ago, and what was that, when Arsene Wenger was in charge, and that's when Arsenal started letting players go on a free, and he was the one that said, trust me, what you're seeing happening to us, it's going to happen to every single club. Top players who are commanding the most money, a lot of wages, will run their contracts down and make clubs either be desperate to keep them, or they move on a free. That signing on fee that they would, you know, they'd have to spend to get the player in will then come into their own players' pockets, and then the agents, and then the players have a whole business and entourage around them. Like if you have a look at the Neymar documentary, it's ridiculous. He's a brand in itself. Do you know what I mean? So it's that's how the market seems to have changed a lot in recent times. So it is crazy. And the Caicedo one,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's start off. No, we're not starting off with Cancelo. Start off with Mudryk, yeah, because we need to find. I need to hear what your thoughts on that was, yeah, because it's a very interesting situation.
Right. So with Mudryk, right, of course, the money. Do you know what? I'm actually disappointed in Arsenal in this Mudryk situation. And the reason is eventually, and I wasn't initially disappointed in them because when they were, saying we're not going to bend over to their rule and their demands and stuff, and we're going to stick to our valuation on the player. But eventually, when you see it, we're 5 million off of what Chelsea offered. And I actually think if you offer that earlier and you're a bit more aggressive with your negotiations, they accept that. This was just drew a big debate with myself and Wilf yesterday because he was saying, but if you go in straight away with that high demand, then they will feel like they can push you further. But what you have to remember is this is a player that, like, when you're in the transfer market, you're not exclusive. It's not just you who are negotiating with that club. Like with a talent like Mudryk, who very little in terms of numbers and a sample size, very small sample size, but with the notoriety and the clubs that were sniffing around him, even in the summer, you had Brentford looking at him. He rejected Brentford. They coughed up the 35 million. By Leverkusen, he gave his demands to them. Arsenal, Real Madrid was sniffing around. So I think what Edu's issue overall was he's not being aggressive enough. He was he was stalling. And that's when Chelsea came in and took over. And I think Chelsea have got a very good player. And yes, they've overpaid for him now, but if he does the business, which I think he will do, given his pace and his attitude and everything towards it, and he does the intangibles that he has, which you can't teach, is that speed and his work ethic to even get to this position. I think he will be a star for them, and it's something that we've missed out on. And hopefully, there is always in the summer there'll be someone else that everyone's talking about, whether it's a Rafael Leao if his contract does stall and there's no breakthrough in there, there'll be someone else. But we've got to be more aggressive in these situations. That's my thoughts on Mudryk. What about you? Do you agree or disagree with what I'm saying?
Like, I think Arsenal were right for backing away from the deal, though. I can't, because it's just can you fathom spending that money on a player who is he gonna go into your team straight away? Like, I mean, I don't know, innit? Because it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, can you fathom that he doesn't go straight in? He's gonna be there and he's gonna fly under the radar. He goes straight into Chelsea's team, right? And so for me, if I'm Arsenal, I'm like, I'm not gonna bring in somebody to disrupt anything going on. We're on our way for this title. We do need players, but like, you see Pedro Neto, that was who we were talking about in the summer. I would have brought him in. I would have tried to, or whatever it would, or somebody of that kind of similar stature who can come in there and be a very good understudy to Saka, Martinelli, and whoever else, right? And then also obviously offers that kind of quality that you need to just make sure you get over the line. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like, I mean, Chelsea got themselves a good player. Like, I saw his debut at Liverpool. I was like, okay, yeah, this guy's, yeah, he looked cold. I can't lie. Yeah, I never really watched him play, so I saw him. I was like, yeah, he could be a problem in a few years. Yeah, if he develops right. But yeah, Arsenal did the right thing, man. Don't go there and and overspend. And obviously, like, there's obviously some dodginess going on behind it, because some of that money is gone to fund towards the Ukraine war and all of this type of stuff. And I think it's kind of funny as well, because obviously Abramovich used to own the club, and he's Russian, involved in some kind of dodginess with Ukraine and all of that. And all of a sudden, Ukrainian's top player comes true right now. It's all mad.
You're spot on, bro. There is more to it than what meets the eye, for sure. But what I'm looking at is, Arsenal were willing to overpay for him in the end, and that's where I was like, if they would have pulled out earlier, right, then I think I'd be looking at this differently. But the fact that they were willing to go to the 95 million euros. But if they would have done that earlier, then maybe they could have worked out a structure in that sense. And Chelsea, I think the reports actually came out from The Athletic that at one point Chelsea thought he was all set and he was all going to Arsenal. But when they sensed and when they were told that the talks stalled, that's when they came in and that's when they saw an opportunity. But so that's an area of improvement, because even with the Caicedo situation,
Yeah,
If you
give your thoughts on that one as well, bro.
if this is it, like the Caicedo situation, it's a mistake that we've made, not even from the summer, bro. It's from January and even the summer prior to that.
Oh,
We've
really?
needed this midfield area replay, like we've needed depth beyond Partey for a good year and nearly 2 years now. Ever since we brought Partey in, he was the only one, and that's what we've not, and we've been lacking that. We missed out on Bruno Guimaraes for the same thing because we weren't willing to overpay then.
No, but that, how much you go there? What was it? 40 million?
40 mil. That, yeah.
Oh, like Arsenal got that, so I don't understand why bro. That's wild. That's wild.
Do you know what I mean? So but Arsenal, we are quite cautious with our approach, and unless that we really feel that he's going to be value for money. We well overpaid. We overpaid for Ben White when he came in. We overpaid for Ramsdale when he came in. And we've done it for other players too. But they're proven to be successes, and we don't really talk about that now. And the same goes for, even Gabriel Jesus, bro. That when we initially brought him in, that one was an overpayment too. Because we spent 50 million on a player that had a year left on his contract, and then that's plus wages. So that's, in terms of his market value, which should be the case, it wasn't. So, but no one's complaining about that. And the same goes for like you, Man United, with Lisandro Martinez. No one's talking about that fee, even though you got the reason why Ajax got that much money is because there was a bidding war, because they used interest against each other to drive up the price. But yeah, the Caicedo one, I'm not blaming that on this window, because if the team don't want to sell, there's nothing you can do. But we should have been looking and reinforcing that position from ages ago. From prior, we messed up in the summer with Douglas Luiz, because even that was a last minute bid, remember? So what was you gonna say, bro?
Nah, I was gonna say that how when he put out that statement talking about how he's got 10 brothers and sisters. And when I was like, nah, I've never seen this before in my life. Yeah. My way to exit the club is, hey, I'm posting on Instagram. Look, my brothers, I'm getting paid 3.5 a week. Yeah, I need to go get this money at Arsenal. I got my family to feed. Let me go. Nah, I've never heard that before in my life, bro. What is going on here?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. But just before I bring in my next caller as well, and the next guest, I'll just run through a few more of your comments, and let's see what you're saying, people. So we've got plenty of you in here. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you smash the like button as well, people. It's been a good one so far. He's just popped out. Yeah. Hey, but anyone else that wants to call, feel free, and we'll talk about your club. We'll talk about so much more. Big up my brother Roland as well. I dashed his link into the chat, so make sure you go and do subscribe over there at Pros Only Sports. And let's get into it. Where did we get up to? Because we got quite a few in here, so I'm trying to get through all that we got through here. And Ed's asked the question here, and I'll throw this one to you. Cancelo move. What's your thoughts?
Ruthless from Pep, innit? Like, I mean, I think that was always going to be the case. You know how he is. Like, he doesn't have a settled 11. He loves to rotate his squad. And so apparently the bust up was because he didn't start in the Manchester. No, is it Manchester? Oh, the game against
Wolves game.
Was it Wolves game? Oh, it was a Wolves game. All right. So, like, I think if you're a player going into Manchester City, I think it's made very clear to you that you're not going to be playing every single game. The only way you do is if you're a really consistent performer, essentially, right? Where you're really making an impact on the team week in, week out. For the most part, if you're not doing that, you expect to be in and out of the team. I think in terms of Cancelo as a player, his career path, I think where did he start off? Valencia, right?
Yeah, so he started off at Valencia. Well, Sporting before that.
Sporting and Valencia, fine. Went to Inter, wasn't great. Juve wasn't great. So when he signed for City in that exchange with Danilo, I was like, I'm not too sure what to make of him. And then when he came into the Pep system, and then we started to see what he was really about. And then obviously I think he's good going forward, not the best defensively. And then I'm thinking to myself, at the same time, you know the situation at City, he's going to rotate. Like, if you're not like consistently performing, what are you expecting? Like, and then for him to go just like that, I think it just shows you how ruthless Pep is, and then maybe either they've got a target, which I don't think they do because the window's closing. So the youngster, Lewis is his name?
Rico Lewis,
Rico Lewis? Yeah. So he's probably gonna get some game time and be embedded in there. At the same time, I don't think Cancelo's been able to nail down a spot on either side as well. Like,
yeah, it's true.
He's, he keeps like going from right to left, and so it's like he's not been able to nail down that spot either, which is a bit like it's a bit jarring when you see it. And how old is he now? 27?
28.
28 years old. Like, so even at that point in time, like how City work, like they've already got a target in mind to replace somebody like as soon as, and then that person becomes your competition, and next thing you know, they overtake you and you get sold anyway. So, I mean, how much did they bring him in for?
It was that weird Juventus deal, as you said, though. In terms of that, but
was it 40 million?
It was crazy. It was like 60. So overall, there was like 20 million that they paid for because they paid 60, but then they sold Danilo for like 35.
35, okay,
40 to 40.
Right. So then obviously now with the loan to buy in, it's gonna be, what is it? They said 70 million euros or something like that, whatever it is. Yeah. So they're gonna make some money out of it if it in turn, happens, right? So yeah, it's a crazy one, man. But I think Pep is ruthless. I don't know what that means. I think next season, the summertime is going to be a bit mad because I can see City going out there splashing some cash again because they've decided to, they've relinquished their title and they got to try and go for it again.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think there was an interesting thing though, like that Pep, he had an interview with Rio Ferdinand before the Champions League final, and he was talking about how, he like you have to look at everybody and see if they are willing to continue to win, basically, right? And it's like something I remember that Fergie used to do at the end of every season. He'd look at all the players in the eye and be like, yeah, are you ready for the next season? Because we're going to defend this and we're going to defend that. And if you ain't got to look in your eye, you're gone in the summer. And it's like, that's the kind of thing that kind of builds like a team that's consistently winning. Yeah. So for Arsenal, that's going to be key. You win the league this season. How are you going to defend it next season? Is the players there? Are they going to be, complacent? And because how it is when you're the champions, everybody wants to beat you the next season. Everybody. Yep. So you got to be ready for that. And like I think in the Manchester City squad, there's been some complacency, obviously, this season, and Arsenal have been able to take advantage of that. And it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen where there's gonna be some crazy moves happening out of there this summer, and some new players coming in to refreshing the squad. I always think it's important though. You should have like some some churn in the squad.
Yeah, definitely.
Three players in, 3 players out every season, so that you can at least freshen up the squad, new characters, new blood, new energy, so that you can continue to compete. But it's interesting, man. It's pretty interesting.
And that, excellent point you made right there, Roland, because I brought this up yesterday in the Arsenal show, that interview that you spoke about with Rio Ferdinand, where he looks at those players and says, are you here? Are you willing to fight again and go again and battle again? Because it's even harder when you're at the top. It's like in any boxing, in any sport. Once you've reached the top, and staying at the top is even harder than that whole journey to get there. So, and also what Pep's also said is, it's harder to tell people that are champions what to do, because it takes a different type of personality and humility. And I think this is the big case with Cancelo here. If you're going into Pep's Manchester City, you got to know that you're not playing week in, week out. There's literally probably 2 to 3 players that do that. And now Haaland's there. But before, it's only really Kevin De Bruyne and Ederson. Cancelo, he was consistent last season, and because he had his best season, he played every week, and he was on there, for FPL for everyone in their FPL teams, and he was doing well. But if you're not at that, Pep's not willing to ride for you. He's at Manchester City where the money is there, and if he's ruthlessness. And I think that's where he's got that similarity with Alex Ferguson, because Alex Ferguson was the best manager at this, knowing when to let go of players and knowing when to churn them out, as you said, and bring in replacements. He did it with Roy Keane. He did it with David Beckham. He did it even with Jaap Stam, came in for a short period. He knew and when they weren't seeing eye to eye, he did what he did. He knew when to get rid of Van Nistelrooy, and even he said, "Give me one more season to Ronaldo," because he knew that type of character that I can come work with that for a longer period. So Alex Ferguson was the best at that in that situation, and I think that's what Pep's really good at. So yeah, he's recognised the hunger's not there from Cancelo, and he's cut the ends quick. Liverpool, that's the difference between Man City and Liverpool. If he's at Liverpool, he stays there.
Yeah.
And because they don't get rid of him because they think of the investment that they made in the contracts and whatnot and these things. But that's what Liverpool need to do. If you're gonna fail fast. And by that,
fail fast. Exactly. You gotta just throw flat on your face because longing it out, because we've done it. We've done it for years. Look, we still got players there now, and this is where I feel like Ten Hag. I think they said that he's given a list to the board and said these players got to go in this summer. They just can't stay, like, because Phil Jones has been there for years. He shouldn't be there. Like, Tuan Zabi hasn't had an opportunity really to play, but I think injuries have kind of caught up with him. He's gone on a few loans, hasn't worked out. He's got to go. He cut ties, like. So I mean, yeah, it's pretty interesting, man. I can't lie to you.
Yeah, exactly. And big up everyone that's locked in here as well. Big up yourself, Moss, who's in here too, talking about Newcastle grooving, Chelsea payment plans in there too. Big up yourself, Sean, in here saying big up T. I'm sure you'll probably want to hear about Sambi Lokonga and my thoughts on that there. I'll let you know, my bro. Just getting through the comments first. Nav, how do you feel about Jorginho? Nav, you know what? I'm all right with it. I came to peace with it initially. It's underwhelming when you go from Caicedo to Jorginho. But for what we need in the short term, I think the big reason why we were so desperate to get a midfielder is because of Elneny's injury. He's an upgrade on Elneny, even if Elneny was fit in that position. And Arteta's really liked this player for a long time. So yes, it's a panic to a certain extent. This isn't what we planned for. But he was a succession plan, and Arsenal have been quite good at doing that. And as I was saying yesterday to Wilf and King and all the others that tuned in, if you're going to have a limit and you're going to be quite stringent in your limit on players, and you're not going to willing to go above and beyond like a Chelsea do or a Man United, then you have to have succession plans, and you have to have players that that will cover you for the short term, and so that you can go in the summer where the market's much better. Clubs are much more willing to talk, and the fees aren't as ridiculous that you'd have to pay. Like Caicedo's not going to be 70 million in the summer unless he had a world-class second half of the season, of course. But because Caicedo that we know today, in the summer, he's not going to be worth 70 million. You get him for probably 50 to 60. And you can have like add-ons and whatnot. So yeah. How do you feel about Jorginho, Roland?
It's a good signing for Arsenal. Like, the way the fans have been talking on social media makes me laugh, because it's like, trust me, like, yeah, I understand the disappointment in the window. Like, obviously, there's two players that you've gone for,
yeah,
and then maybe one that you were inquiring about in Joao Felix, and you didn't get any of them. Fine, but you've brought in somebody who's a winner. That's the first thing. Like, that because he's won the Euros, he's won the Champions League. I think it's very different to the previous signings you've gotten from Chelsea over the years. So the Petr Cechs and in recent years anyway, the Petr Cechs, the Williams and whatnot, like them coming in, they were at the end of their careers and they were looking for money because Arsenal were willing to offer that. Whereas I think Jorginho understands that he's going to come into this team or into this squad and be a part of that squad, help you get over the line. And he's probably going to get himself a Premier League winners medal out of it, which is very interesting as well to see. And yeah, he's actually signed as well, which is So I mean, I think it's a good move for Arsenal. I think Arsenal fans, when they calm down after the window's closed, they'll see the qualities that he brings to the squad. Obviously, the way you guys play football in terms of your possession-based style, he fits into that. Don't forget when he came in when he came to England, Man City wanted him, and Chelsea obviously offered more, and he went to Chelsea instead. And that was obviously Sarri wanting to implement that, what they call Sarri ball at the time and all of that. So he's going to be an asset in that position. In terms of the other side of it is the physicality. He lacks physicality. He lacks mobility. And so when you don't have the ball, how does that work? That's the most interesting thing as well. So we'll see how it all ends up. But overall, it's a good signing for Arsenal. Pretty decent bit of business. What is it, 12 million?
10 million plus 2 in add-ons.
So it's a decent one still.
Exactly, and the most important factor about it, my bro, is it doesn't hinder us in the summer to make those. You know, if we do want to bring in 2 midfielders, which I think we will need to do, just so that we don't do a Liverpool, is we can get a Caicedo and a Rice, who that's been really spoken about, who Arteta's a massive fan and big admirer of. And then, yeah, and if Jorginho does well, we have the option to extend by a further year. And then even if he does well, you can decide to keep him or even flip him, like how Barcelona did with Aubameyang and made profit there. That's the next step for Arsenal. We need to improve our flips and in that sense. And because like the fact Jorginho leaving, like he had 6 months left, less than that. And they're making 12 million on him. That's good. That's good business.
It's good business.
It is good business, to be fair, for Chelsea, and I wish we do that more. Maybe we will in the future. I'm sure with how Arsenal are behaving now that we'll have the opportunity to do so. What else we got in the comments right here? We got a lot of Cedric talk. Is Cedric not useful for depth? He's not for us, Arsenal, but because we've got Tomiyasu at right back, who's the backup behind Ben White, and then even at worse, like you could even put a Saliba out there, for example. And so Cedric doesn't really make much sense if he's a third choice. Really, you only need about 2, I'd say, and then probably a third option in there. Also, what else we got? Paxton saying about Sabitzer, good player, Ed. I watched the German league and he offers more than Eriksen, which is what Roland said here in terms of what he can do off the ball. He does offer more than Eriksen. He's much more of a natural double pivot, like 8.
Yeah, he's at 8. He's at 8, but like because he's intelligent enough, he can play in all of them midfield roles. He can play as a 10, as a 6 as well if needs be. He can play in that single pivot if he wanted to. But I think he's gonna sit alongside Casemiro for the rest of the season.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense in that one there. 2-footed as well, which is another thing that Eriksen gives you with his progressive passing off both feet. Is press resistant in that sense. Only against Brentford, that's the only game where he didn't look so press resistant.
Yeah, it was a bit wild, that one. Like when he did that, I was looking, I was like, yeah, I understand the vision, but I'm not so sure it's gonna work, big man.
Exactly, and that's why you brought Casemiro in, because he's like, yeah, if you do that, I'll be there to win it back for you. So yeah, you can just focus on playing it forward, and how, do you know what? Just quickly, because when we first spoke about Casemiro, this was really about the Champions League final. I just want to know your thoughts. And
hey, he surprised me. I ain't never seen this side of him before. Because when he was playing in that Real Madrid side, he wasn't doing this. He had the 2 next to him. He had Modric and Kroos. So he's just literally breaking up the play and just giving the ball to them. And I was like, I don't like that. I like players that can do all of it. Like this is a new age of football. So if you got a midfield player, you have to be able to do everything. If you can't do everything, then it's a bit shaky for you. You know what I mean? So seeing what he's doing now, like what's it? I think it's 11 goals and assists for the season. I'm like, from you, nah. I've never seen this from him before. So yeah, he surprised me. I think Ten Hag did the right thing. Like people were complaining why he didn't go straight in. I'm sure he would have been ready to go straight in, but I feel like you kind of have to give him that berth, like give him a bit of time, let him assess because he might be one of them kind of players, who's pretty intelligent and just watches the game and understands where he feels in. So that's what you do in it. Like you don't put them in straight away. Just let them sit on the bench and watch, see where they can fit into the team. So when they get in there, then they can do what they need to do. And like what he's been able to do, man, I was like, I'm just so pissed off that we didn't get in another player, like another midfielder to go alongside it. Because if we had gotten Frankie de Jong as well, yeah, it's long for everybody because it's like the perfect balance, like in midfield. But we'll see what happens in the summer, man. Because I feel like obviously this summer merry-go-round for the midfielders is going to be interesting. Because obviously there's a Declan Rice, there's Jude Bellingham, there's Frankie de Jong. Kudus, he's not the natural in there, but he's gonna be going somewhere. Like he's leaving Ajax for sure. Obviously Enzo's already gone. He was one to watch for the summer, but he's already gone. Like it's gonna be interesting because there's not many options left of that kind of quality that you need in the midfield.
Ruben Neves,
yeah, true. I mean, like obviously I don't know if his time is gone Essentially, I don't know. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Ed would tell you different, bro.
yeah, Ed, I know Ed, Ed would be on to me for sure. Ed would just like, be on to me for it. Like, I feel like his time is gone. He will move, but I don't know where. Like,
yeah.
I don't know where exactly, but because it depends as well on Wolves' status as well. Because he might say, you know what, I've given them what I need to give them now. Because we've taken it this far. We did very well when I got here, and it's kind of falling off a cliff now. Like, I need to go somewhere now. But yeah, man, I mean, yeah, Casemiro's been immense, man. Like, I can't lie to you, he's been immense. Like, some of this stuff that you've been doing is a bit mad.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where I defend you and say the stuff that he's doing now, and even he's passing and whatnot. He wasn't doing that at Real Madrid because he wasn't given that. He never had that responsibility because he had Kroos and Modric in front, and it was just simply you do your job and then give it to Kroos and Modric because will do everything for you. But now that responsibility has risen, you've seen him take it to another level. So yeah, it's a good move, man. And there was doubts initially, weren't there, because of his age and the money that was coming in and whatnot.
I didn't think it was a Ten Hag signing. I still don't think it was. I think it was a club one. Because the reason why I say that is because, you know, when we went in for Varane, we inquired about Casemiro. They said no. So then obviously, you know how it works. It's on a list, isn't it? Like, every player is on a list for clubs. So you can keep recycling back to that same list if those players are still available. So,
hence Jorginho.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm saying. So, like, obviously, so he was on the list, and then obviously you can go and inquire again. They'll say, okay, he's surplus to requirements. If you want him, this is the price. We paid the price. He comes. So, like, but then I think Ten Hag obviously said, yeah, I'm taking him for sure. Like, what, you wouldn't turn him down. I just don't think you would. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's
spot on. Nah, you're 100% right, I think, there. What else have we got in here? We got plenty. We got plenty. Big up each and every one of you that is in here, guys. I really love and appreciate the engagement that we've got in here right now. Peony says, new money United, gone from Mike Ashley to Champions League fight, all within one season, but they get praise, even though it's sports washing. I don't get it. You know what? When we talk about the political side of it all, we can talk about the Americans and the whole Western. To the East, the West are just as bad in terms of how we operate and those things. So it gets difficult. The only things that I'm praising them for is they're not doing a Chelsea in that sense, where they're not going absolutely mad, because what Chelsea do have behind them, which is why I think it's successful, why it will be successful for them, is they still have that club history, the history of winning, and that will attract players, and they always think, okay, I can win a league here. Whereas at Newcastle, if they were doing that with certain players, they'll be getting in mercenaries initially. Man City did, even, you know, as Roland was speaking earlier, Man City, they did bring in a couple mercenaries to begin with. Robinho, he certainly was one, and that was a big name. It was a wow signing at the time, but they've not done that. So that's why they get a bit of praise. Would you agree as well, just on
that? Yeah, I mean, but you know what? Yeah, I just think it's because it's, like he said, new money, in it. Like, it's new money, so people are gonna praise them. Like, I think because the story, the narrative is like their fans have been protesting for like 10, 12, 15 years against like the ownership of their club, in it. Like, so yeah. You know, but it's all the same. Like, it's all the same. Me, I don't care. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm not a politician. I ain't got nothing to do with any of that. If Dubai want my club, come and take my club, man. Come and take my club, man. I don't care, because like, I hate this whole people are clamoring for, like, you think billionaires are clean. They're not clean.
No, of course
they've
not.
already done something bad to somebody to get themselves into that position. So why do we care? Like, it's not my money. Like, I'm just here I'm here for the entertainment. I'm here for the football. I don't care about anything else, bro. I can't lie.
Absolutely. Billionaires are ruthless, and they have to exploit us as human beings in some way, supply and demand and whatnot. That's where their money comes from. Big up yourself, Reese in the building as well. Hope you're doing good. Big up yourself, G Staffy, saying hello. And yeah, Middlesbrough, fair play to you. You know, quick word on Middlesbrough, you know, because I know they won't get many mentions on a lot of streams, but Cameron Archer, Aaron Ramsey, not the Juventus, the old Juventus Arsenal one, but the twin of Jacob Ramsey, who's a very good prospect, by the way. And then there was one more, wasn't there? that they signed. I forgot who it was, but those are the big two. Very good players, and Middlesbrough is looking dangerous. And Blackburn have signed. Yeah, one of the weirdest transfers I saw was Lewis O'Brien that Nottingham Forest bought from Huddersfield in the summer. It was basically the championship player of the season last year.
Oh yeah,
Nottingham Forest paid about 15 million for him. He'd have just sent him out on loan. Not even 6 months.
Yeah, there's some there's some dodginess going over there at Forest. I can't lie to you. There's something going on dodgy there, man. I can't lie to you.
Yeah. So it's honestly mad. It is mad. And
but
listen to
Michael Carrick's doing well still. He's doing well.
Michael Carrick, the manager. I forgot.
He's doing pretty well.
Hey, this is it, man. When I was talking yesterday also about these types of managers, Michael Carrick as a player was a thinker. He was good technically. He wasn't outstanding and out of this world where he had God-given technical ability. But when you're a thinker, those tend to be the best managers. Don't you agree, bro?
Yeah, it's true, man. Like I actually wanted him to be the interim to the end of the season before we appointed Rangnick. I can't lie, because when you saw how it all kind of crashed and burned, I was like, yeah, we probably should have just decided to just keep him on to the end of the season.
Anyway, I wish you did have Rangnick for that Arsenal game. The one we did. So basically, I've learnt my lesson. Just don't do watch alongs with Roland, and we might win at Old Trafford.
Bro, they be judging me, bro. They say it's me judging, bro.
Exactly that. But Enzo Jr., big up yourself. It is not confirmed as of yet. So this is where the confusing part was with a lot. And I'm just having a look on Twitter now and looking at the credible sources. But people were saying that, right, the reason why they thought it was a done deal is because Chelsea had prepared a medical, but they've actually still not agreed with Chelsea, with Benfica, on the deal just yet, because they're trying to pay installments. And they're trying to work out the way how to structure it, because it is a release clause. And with a release clause, what you're meant to do, as Roland perfectly explained earlier, is that you're meant to pay in full and at that moment. But there's other ways that you can get around it with 23 capital and whatnot, which is kind of like, basically, in our terms, it's kind of like Klarna, buy now, pay later. And then you can pay installments because they pay for you. Yeah. And then you pay a little bit of interest in that sense. But yeah, it's with big banks. So it is confusing, but it is not confirmed yet. And I just had a look.
It's not confirmed, and this is interesting because that one's going to go to the wire, I think.
Exactly. And as Moss says here, not approved yet, the payment plan. And I think it's going to be a lot of like background checks that they're going to have to do, like in fast track speed and stuff. It's going to be an unprecedented transfer, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a British record, isn't it? Like literally just over the Grealish one as well. Like, it's big. It's not a small thing at all.
Exactly. Enzo and Klarna not confirmed yet. It's true. Nav saying here, well, we've been buying ex-Chelsea players, so who knows? We may end up buying him in the future when his value drops. But I think Trossard was a good signing for us, not going to lie. The one that I'd liken it to, everyone's talking about how Arsenal, we signed Gallas, Luiz, Willian and Cech, and they came in for a holiday or for a retirement plan. Have a look at when we sold Giroud to Chelsea. The culture at the club's different. I think it would have that similar impact, where Giroud was a impact player and an experienced man around the dressing room, and end up winning the Europa League and the Champions League with them. Hopefully Jorginho can have that impact for us. Let's have a look. Anything else? Tottenham. Pedro Porro has just signed as a new Tottenham player. I want to ask you, Roland, if you got any more time, let me know if you do need to dip or anything, bro. But I really do appreciate it. But I want to ask you on Tottenham, what's your thoughts on them and their transfer window?
I can't lie. Like, you see, when I said January is the window where you need to kind of get signings in to kind of push you towards something, because they're battling for Champions League status for this season, and they've gone and got themselves a fullback, which, I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm saying to myself, Bentancur's injured, right?
He should be back now, though.
He's back, all right, fine, cool. So then they're okay in that area, right? The wing back situation has not worked out at all, like, because Sessegnon's been in and out of the positions there. There's no trust in Doherty. Emerson Royale, they've not rated him since he's come through. Perisic is I like Perisic. I always have a soft spot for Perisic. I have a soft spot for him. I don't know why, I just do. But obviously he's older now. He's 34. He's not going to be doing that week in, week out type of thing. He can offer some qualities, but not every week. So they needed somebody, and they've gone for Pedro Porro. I can't lie to you, I've not seen much of him. All I've seen is that he's highly rated by Sporting. And obviously, if you come through that academy, which I think he has, you generally have a lot of good players that come out of that academy. You can go back years and you know the kind of players that come out. So he's gotten a good footballing education. Whether he comes into this Spurs side and creates something special for them, I doubt it. He's young, so you can't put that pressure on him. For the future for Spurs, it's a decent player. It's a good player there. But, hey, I don't think this is enough to kind of give them a Champions League spot. You know, the only thing that they can rely on is Harry Kane's goals to try and get them over the line. But then you've got teams above you that are performing at a particular type of way.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Peeny. keep asking Roland questions because the next caller has died of old age. We haven't had another one coming since our one came in and dipped. And someone I haven't seen on the channel before as well. So it'd been a nice time.
You should have brought him on, man. I would have dipped if you brought him on. Like,
no. Oh, it's a pleasure having you on my channel, bro. It is always talking ball with you. And DB, when we're talking about Spurs, there, of course, you have to put that in as well. But yeah, man, right. I just want to ask you, this is kind of now a little part where the expectations in the Premier League for the Premier League clubs, right? Has this January transfer window changed any of your expectations for certain clubs? So for Chelsea, for example, do you think that they need to get into the Champions League? I know it seems crazy to say now because they are in 10th and they're 10 points behind 4th place Manchester United. But I think, I'm going to say this here, yeah, and this is an early shout. I think Chelsea will get close or either can do it and get into the Champions League this season. Top 5, I'm saying.
Yeah, like I was going to say they will just miss out. The reason why is because over the years, I've learned like in football, momentum takes you a long way. So you remember I told you about Arsenal, it's so inconceivable at this point. I don't care how like early you consider it, for them to drop 4 games. 4 games is a lot. And then you're also expecting the teams below you to catch up on 4 games on you. Like, it's tough. Like, and Arsenal they've lost 1 game this season in the league. And like, how many have you won this season?
We've lost 1 and drawn 2, so we've won the rest. So
you won 17?
Yeah, well, for 16 games.
16 games. Like 16 games you've already won. Like, you're not going to not win. You win at least another 10, 12 games more. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then you're champions. Like, so for Chelsea having to make up 10 points even, it's going to be tough because United are still fighting. You know, you've got all them teams above you that are fighting to, because look at Brighton, unprecedented season. They're going to make sure that they get Europe this season, regardless of how they do it. They're going to fight for that. Like, I'm trying to think. Obviously, Spurs are still trying to fight to get into that Champions League. Newcastle are still fighting. I think if Chelsea want to be in the Champions League next season, they have to win the Champions League this season. That's how they're going to have to do it. So I think for Chelsea fans, the expectation will be, all right, we may have to concede for this season, but we need to win the Champions League to get us through. But then in terms of anybody else, I'm just trying to think. I think Newcastle, they made how many signs they made? 1 or 2?
Newcastle, well, they've made 2. They've brought in Gordon and Ashby as from a right back from West Ham.
Yeah, so then I'm thinking consolidation. Let's try and at least get Europe. Like, because I think Champions League was maybe not on their radar and they found themselves in that position.
Yeah.
And I think just get Europe. If you get Europe, you're fine. Brighton have kept Caicedo. It's going to be interesting though, because obviously they sent him home on Friday and said, don't come to training until February 1st. when the windows open, come back. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he fares, because they're on a charge to try and go for that European spot, first time ever in their history. He's a key player to their squad, and obviously they've told him to go and sit down and think about your life, and then come back on February 1st and come back to training. Yeah, how's his attitude gonna be to that squad? Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know. Like, I don't know how his attitude is gonna be. Is he gonna settle down and just say, all right, let me just continue the rest of the season, then leave? But we'll see.
Yeah.
United getting Sabitzer, Weghorst. I mean, I won the trophy. Top 4 in the trophy this season, I'm fine with. I think we get top 4. If we can win the League Cup next month, it'll be amazing. And then we can build. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of these players ain't won a trophy at United, so they need that under their belt. But yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about who else though. Liverpool have signed Gakpo, and that's it.
Yeah, they're not coming back anyway.
They're not coming. Yeah, they're not coming back. It's finished for them this season.
But also, just a quick one. Do you think this season the failures of this season stops them from getting Bellingham?
I think with Bellingham, it's the money. Whoever pays the money. Of course, he'll have a choice of where he wants to go. Like, he'll have a choice. But I don't know. Is there a clause in his contract?
No, there isn't. No. So it's literally they can have a bidding war.
That's the thing, and I think that's what Dortmund wants. They want Real Madrid to come through with this money. What do you call it? Who else? The Real Madrid, Liverpool. I mean, even I want him at United. I swear I do. I want him, like, because you bring him in, it's like, yeah, we got ourselves that midfielder, because like you saw how he's performing in the World Cup for England. Like it's like, this is, the stage he's on. Like, he's on that level now where like he's gonna explode next 10 years. He's gonna be crazy. But yeah, like I don't know where he goes though.
Nah, for real, it's hard, man. I don't even know if he moves in this summer. You know, I'm not even sure. The price might be too much.
He might push. He might push. Like, how many years has he been at Dortmund now? 3?
I don't know if it's actually been that long. Maybe 2.
When did he go there? 16 or 17?
When he was 17.
And how old is he now? 20 or 19?
19. So yeah, 2 years.
He's been there 2 years. Yeah, you might be right. You know, they might hold on for another season, and I don't think he'd be like annoyed at that. I think he'd be happy to stay at Dortmund. I think he's well settled there. Like, he's emerged as one of the star players in the team, and if he stays for another year, I don't think he minds. Like, if it doesn't work out, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. Peony Ween asking a question here.
No,
but he's got a massive now second half of the season.
No, but I love the fact that people because like you won't get that reaction out of me. I'm not one of them kind of people in it. Like, I'm not one of those kind of people in it. So you can ask them kind of questions. I think for him, I dropped a video on it like a few days ago just about the situation. Like, I just feel like a lot has been made over it, because, you know, it maybe for some fans it's a new phenomenon to them, but it's not for me. I saw Wayne Rooney, get taken out of the team and out of the firing line and sent to America to do an individual training program when he was under Fergie. Like, so it's not new. It happens to players all the time.
Sterling, I think he had to do it at one point.
Sterling. So I think, and I made a nice comparison on that video where I was like, the trajectory for Sancho has been a lot different to, let's say, someone like Bellingham, right? Where Bellingham had an exposure to men's football and had a lot of eyes on him from early. Sancho didn't have that. 17 years old, was part of the Manchester City Academy, like breaking into development squad, and then decided to just move straight to Dortmund. And even then, they knew he wasn't ready for men's football. So he played like in the 4th tier of German league, and so you get a bit of experience in men's football. Then played for the second team, and then was coming off the bench a little bit as well in his first season. Then he started properly in their first team, so he had to go and do all of that work and then get into the team. At Dortmund, there's no eyes on you like that. Moves to United, everybody's looking at you now, and then there's pressure to perform week in, week out. You've got a price tag on your head. Everybody knows how much you're getting paid, so they're gonna talk about that. Like, And I just don't think he was up to the required level to play week in, week out and be a good player in the Premier League in the position that he plays. Because there's only like, if you're a winger or a wide man in the Premier League, yeah, you have to be an elite dribbler, or you have to be a speed demon, like a supreme athlete to be considered one of the good players, right?
Yeah.
And he's not blessed with like super lightning pace, but he can dribble. He's a very good dribbler, right? But I think someone made what's his name? Eddie from Eddie's Football Waffle, he made a very good point. Yeah, he was like, you basically have to mold him in the same way you've done with Mahrez. Mahrez is a very good dribbler. If you can aim to even be to that level, he'll be fine. Like, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, but you're right. It's a big second half of the season for him. I hope. I'm glad Ten Hag handled it the way he did. There's no falling out with the player. You always make sure that the door is open for the player to come back into the side. Like, you don't punish somebody if they're not feeling 100%. You nurture them, make sure that they're good. Because as I said this before, these clubs and these managers and these coaching staffs, they have a duty of care to these players. You with them all the time. Like, this is their career in your hands. Like, so you got to handle them right.
And just, you know, that was very interesting, and I agree with you in that, in everything that you said there. And just on that final point, me and you, we've spoken about this before with a certain, situation.
We actually still need to talk about like doing something surrounding that, because there's some stuff there.
Exactly. And what Ten Hag, you have to give him credit. If you're willing to work for him, he'll give you the care, he'll give you the attention. It's like Arteta, man. Arteta's the same thing. People just think that Arteta's just this cold heart. No, I ain't bringing you back. Like, if you're not at a certain level, you're not coming into the side. No, it's all about attitude. That's why Aubameyang had to go. That's why Ozil had to go. But then you look at Eddie Nketiah, who's needed that nurture, who hasn't, as you said, you know, when you're talking about being exposed to first team football, he took him away and he didn't get him in the limelight, bigging him up and getting him working hard in training, physically developed into this player that he is now. Look at him. He's getting an England call up, bro. If as long as he plays like this, he continues.
No. I mean, no. I want it back. I want it back. I want it back now. No. If he's playing like this, I want him back, bro. No.
Hey, I remember talking about this in December. I remember.
Oh, yeah. In December, I wasn't sure, but now I'm sure.
Hey, bro, that's football, though. How quickly things change. You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe Jorginho is an Arsenal player. Like, I never would have thought that a week ago, let alone today. So, yeah, man. But, guys, we will wrap up in a bit. So because we got another one to jump on in an hour's time on Rich's channel. Are you streaming it as well, or is it just on Rich's?
No, it's just on Rich's channel.
I was just on Rich's. So yeah, guys, join me on that over there. We're talking about Sambi Lokonga and we'll talk about all the others as well. But let me go through some of your comments first in here. That was talking about Jadon Sancho there. Terence, you're not catching me out with this one, okay? I see it there. I read it out in my head when I saw you write it down. You ain't catching me out with that one there. Ed says Liverpool need their midfield needs a complete resuscitation for sure, definitely. They've neglected that part of the team though. They have. Terence, he's coming. I think he's coming on a trolling vibe still.
Bro, did you ever watch Phone Jacker, bro? That's the character. That's Terry King, bro. Terry King, bro.
Terence Timms is on a trolling thing. Hey, but I respect it. As long as you left a like as well, man. I respect it even more.
A like and subscribe as well. You can come and troll it anytime.
I'm up for it, Terence. I'm up for it. Yeah. Let's have a look. Gotta have the kicks right at the ready, I guess. Say Tibbs. Hey, there some fresh kicks I can see back there as well. Yeah, I mean.
I gotta stay fresh, but I do sell as well. So
do you? Oh, nice. There you go. So there you go, people. StockX, go check him out on that there. But yeah, life hacks. Don't give up on nicotine during a transfer window. It is stressful. I'm actually kind of glad it's shutting. Just you know what? The final thing to wrap up on, bro. Do you enjoy the transfer window?
You know what? I tune out. I tune out because, you know, like I remember maybe a few years ago, it was a certain point where I said, you know what, I'm done with transfer windows, because like it was I think every summer it's always you're expecting somebody new, and then nobody comes through like when you want them to come through. So at that point, you're just like, yeah, I'm cool. Whoever they sign, they'll sign in it whenever it happens. But yeah, I just tune out. I tune out, man. Like you just wait till the end of the window shuts, and if the players that you get are good, then no, there's no problem. If you don't bring in anybody, then you're stressed for the season, boy. Like that's how it is for me. But I don't really pay too much attention to it anymore, man. There's no point. Like it's just what it is, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. I don't really enjoy it in too much, to be honest. There's too much nonsense that goes out, and you know, I don't even blame the journalists, right? Because they're just putting out information that they're given, right? But what we know, the journalists are just basically marketers for clubs and PR, and we know that, unfortunately, and that's what happens when you get into the game. You are just a promotion for the club, like you know. So yeah,
even now, like you random people on Twitter now can just put stuff up and say this player is signing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Followers, like so that stuff is why I don't care anymore, because it's like if someone I could do that if I wanted to, innit? Like, do you know what I mean? And then like gain a following, and there's nothing's true. Like, it's just nonsense.
Dash up an alarm, and then an egg timer, and then a tick, and then eyes. Like that. It is eyes, yeah. And pros only sports sources understands. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do that, bro, and that's why I don't care.
You can guess it, and then you'll be like, "See, told you."
You know what I mean? That's why I don't care anymore. Like,
and then it's even worse now because you can pay for a tick, and you don't even know if they're legit.
Yeah. Hey, they need to shut it down. Elon Musk, bro, shut down Twitter, man. Because how are you paying for ticks now? Nah.
Exactly. Whereas Pax, he's on a different vibe. He says, I definitely enjoyed the transfer window. I know the Glazonomics will be in play, so I can be biased and just chill. But yeah, man, but big up each and every one of you that has been locked in here. Really appreciate you guys spending time in the comments, getting your comments in, questions, and interacting with each other. Guys, I really do appreciate it. I'm with you on this one here, Peony. It does make the uproar and the overreactions that we get is a joke. And just on the final part, Cedric Suarez is going to be a Fulham player. So what a nice way to end it. But as Ed says here, I do enjoy a Walsh bomb in basketball.
I prefer that one. That one I prefer.
Because it's deadline day as well. I mean, trade deadline.
No, trade deadline is next month. I think it's just after All-Star weekend. Is it like on just before? I think it's just afterwards.
Yeah. There you go then. Oh, that's calm then. So yeah, I do enjoy a Walsh bomb. But Roland, massive pleasure. Thank you for joining me with this one here. We didn't get many callers in. We had quite a few people at one point. We had one caller come in, but I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed chatting with you, and let the people know where they can find you, my bro.
Yeah, people, Pros Only Sports. Just on all socials. Go subscribe over there on YouTube and all of that, man. I'm just trying to be consistent this year and drop as much content as possible in it. So just come through football, basketball, whatever you want. It's over there.
Exactly. And people, I've been saying this for a while. I'm due to be on there doing the Cannon talk. Everything's set up, but it's just getting into that position. I will definitely be doing it this season. And do you know what? It might be a good way to talk about half a season on there in this coming up. So stay tuned, people. Definitely do subscribe over to Pros Only Sports. You will see a little bit of me on there as well, of course. And if you're into basketball, sometimes do a bit of boxing there as well on there. And definitely a lot of good football chat. Roland, definitely top tier in terms of people chatting football with and a football knowledge. So yeah, definitely go over there and check him out. And people on here as well, we'll be back with a Premier League preview show with my brother in here, Ed, as well. That'll be on Thursday. And then after that, I won't be able to do a watch along for this weekend as it is Ed's son and my nephew's birthday party. So yeah. I'll be missing the Arsenal game, but hey, that's for family, we have to do. But I'll bring a reaction and stuff. I'll get it on the record, so I'll be able to bring everything back to you. But guys, love and appreciate you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. And guys, the transfer window should be shut in the next 2 hours. So enjoy it, people, and we're out of here. Peace.